Hello and welcome back to Sharkys here for this week's preview of the Pettit Senior Hurling Championship. We'll of course be reviewing the action of round 2 and looking ahead to round 3. I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Laffin and Ed Rowsome. And first of all, Paul, unfortunately for you, we're going to have to start in Wexford Park yesterday evening, St Martin's and thing.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd skip that one, Peter, but no, listen, from start to finish St Martin's outclassed us in that match, and was very disappointing, I suppose, from our point of view. It probably really the result wasn't overly surprising, I'd say, coming from our camp. Probably the margin of victory, not at all happy with, but listen, it's a kind of a very new, young, inexperienced team, which I think we finished with 9 under 20s, talking about 9 under 21s, and that's just no match for what St Martin's had out in front of us. And then you take it from the St Martin's point of view, they were coming on the back of it. Listen, a bad loss for them against St Anne's. Their cage was rattled. Someone kind of poked the bear, and they came out from Wexford Park to show everybody in most of Wexford that they're still probably the team that everyone has to beat to win this championship this year. And from the word go, even I think Dumbarton, when he got the first 2 scores, St Martin's just had a much better game plan, more physically stronger everywhere, and listen, dominated most aspects of the field. And all we can realistically do is hope to learn from it and give it our best shot this Friday night. And I suppose one thing to give you a small bit of hope is it could have been 2019 that St Martin's did a job, or probably a bit worse job, on St Anne's in the first round that year, and actually two met in the county final. Now I can't think that we're going to get to the county final or anything, but just goes to show that St Martin's can actually do that to any team if they're not kind of up for it and when they're at their best. And there really is no better team than St Martin's to put you to the sword. And listen, in all fairness, they've done what they had to do, and they didn't take the foot off the gas. And listen, that probably shows that a bit of respect they have for us as well. They don't want to take it easy on us, and if we were in the same boat, we'd probably do the same to them, Peter. But this was their day, and listen, it's going to take a good team to beat them. And realistically now, we're just going to concentrate on trying to get 1 or 2 wins, keep away from this relegation nightmare. But listen, as we know, it's very, very hard to get any points on the board.
And it was a much improved St Martin's on the first weekend's performance.
Yeah, I think Paul has touched on it. There was a lot of factors to come into play, but I think the fact that Glenbartown actually beat St Martin's the last 2 times they met, definitely the Martins were going to be up for that match. But I just felt their full forward line was devastating, I thought. And the crossfield ball, you had Darren Codd, Kyle Farman, he caught fire early, and of course Rory O'Connor. And we'll all remember Rory O'Connor's pass for that third goal. Like, what a pass. Not many forwards able to do that at Club Hurling, and I just thought they were a far superior team on the night. Even allowing for the sending off, I thought they were very good.
So an 18-point victory, 319 to 10 points for St Martin's. And the other game, the first game of the weekend in that group, was Nevena against the Harriers, Ed.
Yeah, Nevena looked very good, finished very strong. The same players came to the fore again. Charlie McGuckian. An interesting thing, Conor MacDonald has played 2 games, only 1 point. Master stroke by Gorey to move them out into the middle of the field, and it opened up the whole thing for Gorey. Cottle Dunbar got in to get a goal. Charlie's playing well, Owen Malloy is playing well. Young Keane O'Tuma, his first start, he was excellent for Gorey, I thought. But the Harriers played well in the first half, and Richie Keogh done a great job on Conor MacDonald. But I think the turning point in the game, we'll have to say, was the sending off, and they were able to afford to put 2 men on China and still have a sweeper. So, there was only going to be 1 winner then when the sending off came.
These 2 teams, Paul, Nevena have got off to a flying start. The Harriers got the draw last week against Lynn, so they're kind of at different ends of the table at the moment.
Yeah, and Nevena went 3 from 3 last year before Costabake caught them in the 4th round, and maybe they'll probably learn from that now. It's a very tough ask. Did they have St Martin's up next? Is it in round 3?
Nevena have St Martin's.
Yeah, so listen, that's going to be a battle of the heavyweights. But I think, go back to Ed's point there, like, the Fight Harriers were in this game for 30-35 minutes, very much so. I know they had the win in the first half as well, but they're still looking comfortable. But it's only when you do lose a man, and then, as you said, Lee Chin can get double teamed. It's very, very hard then for the Harriers maybe to get around that game plan. And then maybe going back to the Conor MacDonald point, I think teams maybe all their games plans are built around trying to stop Conor MacDonald, but it's very hard to do that when you're playing Nevena, because like the 4 other really top class forwards in it, like to leave 5 up there, and any of the 4 of them are game winners on their day, and if you concentrate on one of them, all you're doing is freeing up space for everybody else. And I kind of noticed that in the first round when Gay played them. In the first half, I think they put could have been Conor Heffernan in front of them, right, which was grand, but it negated their maybe attack at the other end. And in the second half, when they actually went man on man, I thought they hurled much better. And as much as you're definitely going to struggle if you do go 15 on 15 against Nevena, it stops their backs. Their backs come out with so much ball when they have an extra man around the field, and they're so dominant with the runners. So, listen, both teams are Nevena are definitely going to be there in the shake-up. Listen, they're very hard to stop. They're good from 1 to 15, and I could imagine Fight Harriers. They're probably going to be a bit like themselves. I could imagine if they can scrape into 4th place, they'll be delighted. But realistically, they just need to get another win to get themselves somewhere off the foot of the table with us. And I can imagine next weekend it'll be one that they're probably going to be really pinpointing as well.
And the other game, of course, in this group, Paul, St Anne's played Highgate and they played out a draw, 17 points to 114.
Yeah, and that was a good tough match as well. And just before the match, I tipped up Highgate maybe to win that by a point, because I just thought their need was more, and I think it was that need in the very end was what got them to draw actually. Because to be 2 points down against the wind, probably 60 minutes on the clock against St Anne's, there's very few teams would come out with anything at that stage, and especially when their probably talisman and star man Damien Rick had been sent off, whatever, with 10 minutes to go. That was really good, fine battling qualities. Basically they did the St Anne's on St Anne's in my opinion in that last probably 2 or 3 minutes. And Shane Rick with one of the greatest catches probably you'd see at a really good clutch moment. He ran from his own half back line out to the half forward line and called for the poke out straight into his hand and got a free. But
that's the type of leadership you need from your big men.
Very much so. And listen, Shane was immense the whole game through. I watched no matter who went into the full forward line, whether it was Dee or whether it was Lee Moog, as soon as they went in there, Shane directly went straight out to him straight away. It's not an easy task when you have two of these swapping in and out the whole time. But I thought Shane was really, really good. But I suppose going back to St Anne's then as well, it's very hard to pinpoint one place that you can stop St Anne's, because they're just a team. I mean, they're basically a team of 1 to 15. I know Aidan Rochford sits back there, does his bit, probably dominates that area as much as he can. But it's very hard to say if you tie down Emo, you'll win the match, or if you tie down D, you'll win the match, because they just don't play like that. It means everybody just gives it their all, and they're very hard to stop as well. While Algay, on the other hand, I suppose most people are saying if you stop Hodge, he'll stop him getting goals, but that's easier said than done. He'll always get his hand on 1 or 2 balls in the match in front of the goal, no matter who's on him.
He took the goal at the weekend really well. I think was it you on commentary? I think Andy Kennedy hardly saw it going past.
Yeah, well, he hardly saw it, and I said that Dumper I don't think saw it either, only it hit the net beside his head somewhere and he got a bit of a fright. But listen, Podge does that once or twice a year, and Seamus is a very good free taker. Algay are a very good team as well. I don't know if they're at the level to win it. I mean, they're probably short in 2 or 3 positions, but they're definitely probably going to beat some other good team along the way. They really are. So St Anne's on the other hand, they're probably, even though they drew at Highgate, and they're probably hoping to get a step probably further than they did last year. You know what I mean? They'll be looking at semi-final, final. Where I think Highgate, even though they'd love to get to a final, I'm kind of thinking of maybe their quarter-final, semi-final material.
And your thoughts on these two sides after 2 rounds now, Ed?
Yeah, a player that really impressed me is Paddy Casey, and Park Hullen. He has serious work rate. You know, he gets the hard job every day. He picks up the top midfielders, and he's great athleticism. I think Paul is probably right. You know, if Sean Rowley was allowed play, you know, he'd be a major help to Highgate. The Anns, I don't know why people are not rating the Anns. The Anns were in the county final 2 years ago. They can't be got a bad team overnight, and as a matter of fact, with the players they have on board now, they're actually a better team on paper. You know,
it was only a penalty shootout that denied them last year against St Martin.
Exactly, and you know, they're a very good team, and Lee Moog and Dermot O'Keefe, they're as good as hurlers as in the country, never mind Wexford, so they'll be thereabouts as well, you know, and no better team than the Anns, especially when they're written off. They love being underdogs, and they're very hard to beat in that role, you know.
So there's a bit of a recap of the 3 games in round 2 of Group A, and just to update you on the table then, we have Nevena at the top of the table on 4 points and a score difference of plus 16. We have St Anne's in 2nd place on 3 points and a score difference of plus 5. St Martin's are in 3rd place with 2 points and a score difference of plus 13. And then Highgate, Fight Harriers and Glenbarntown all are on 1 point each, with Highgate having the best score difference, minus 5, the Harriers with minus 11 and Lynn with minus 18. So definitely still all to play for in Group A. So we'll turn to Group B then, lads. The Shelmaliers had a comfortable enough victory in the end over Rathmuir, 319 to 115. What did you make of that game?
Yeah, look, the Shells were very, very impressive against the wind in the second half, but I still think Rathmuir were very good in the first half, also against the wind, you know. With about a minute to go, they were only 2 points down, and they were playing really, really well, and they conceded a sloppy enough sort of goal, you know. They should have cleared that ball, but you know, they went in down 5 points, and AJ Redmond got a ball at the start of the second half and it went wide, and from that, you know, there was only one team in it, the Shells. The running game was a huge factor, and the two Malones came into it, and Ross Banville, Conor Hearn were key to that victory. The Shells are definitely contenders, Peter, and they've so many good hurlers in their squad as well. I think this championship will actually suit the Shells.
But you mentioned as well, Ed, at half time or at some stage during the game, it was quite a windy day in Belfield, and you mentioned how suited the Shelmaliers game would be to actually playing against the wind.
Yeah, I did. I said that on commentary, and that's the way it panned out. Not saying I'm a great fella to predict that, but that's the way it did pan out. When you've strong runners like the Shells have, they don't mind playing against the wind, and the football tactics come into play, and I thought they were the best equipped team in Wexford to play against the wind, actually.
And Paul, your thoughts on these two teams after the first couple of rounds?
I suppose the Shelmaliers are probably slightly in the same position as St Martin's were in last weekend, that they just couldn't afford another slip up. They really could. You can't go 2 losses from two first and second round matches and attempt to win the championship. I think it was Ronan thing that said that no team has only got to a semi-finals lost their first 2 rounds. So realistically, the Shells had to win this one. Yet Rathnure probably run the game is right up to half time, but I never thought that Shells were actually going to lose the match anyway. I mean, either way, they just had that bit more to tank all the time. And I suppose overall you could pick out 3, 4, 5 different fellas, but it's just their experience as a team at the moment. Like a lot of these guys have county medals, I mean, and they want more. Conor Hearn is after turning to a really fine. He was always a good club hurler, but he's one of the top kind of midfielders out there at the moment now, and he's a driving force in that team realistically from that kind of area. Like what I said, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. They're definitely top. There's 4 kind of teams maybe out there that would all fancy their chances win, and they're definitely one of them. And I suppose Rathnure, on the other hand, they're probably no more like themselves now. They're probably looking down more than up, saying, where are we going to get this win to keep us out of trouble? And they are hurling. They're hurling well in patches. They're hurling well for half an hour in the first match and the second match. But half an hour is not going to win any of these championship matches.
In their defence, they have played 2 of the top teams in the group.
That's true.
Raps and Shells will be contenders, and I think it's probably unfair on Rathnure. They're a very young, inexperienced team. Just we shouldn't really judge them on them too. But
could it actually be a help for them that they've played the 2 better teams in the group at the start?
Well, they didn't get any injuries, it appears. So it might be a help. The big fear when you're looking down, as Paul says, is if you get injuries and you have to play crucial games. Their match next week is a crucial game. So you never know. Rathnure definitely have forwards. They definitely have potential. And some of them are not playing well for one reason or another, and they're probably being, you take a guy like Jack Redmond, he was sort of an unknown there for the last year or 2. Now he's well known, and he's been man-marked, and he's coming under a bit of pressure. But like Kyle Furman last Sunday, he's only 1 score away from catching fire again. Kyle Furman was going through that same problem, that he wasn't an unknown anymore, and he ended up scoring 1-5, and now he's back in the groove. So when you're a forward, once you put the ball over the bar, you're back then.
Yeah, and I'd say probably Rathnure, this is where, as you said, you'd hate to say their championship kind of starts now. It really does. There are 2 of their mini group of 3 they have to kind of play still, and like it's Crossabeg up this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Crossabeg up this weekend, and probably Rathnure looking at, right, we've 2 chances here, Crossabeg and Oulart, the bar like that. We have realistic, really good chances of winning matches here, and if you get 1 win on the board over them 2, they'd be thinking, right, we're in a really good situation. And I suppose going back to when you play these matches, I think it's probably better off. Like I could imagine they would have maybe rather play a Ferns or a Shells near the end of the group when they've qualified, round 5 maybe. When and this is where I think sure, Oulart are playing Rathnure in the 5th round, right? Crossabeg, whoever they're playing, will be guaranteed. I think they will be qualified at that stage, and that's why I think Crossabeg will have the head start on the other 2 guys. That whoever they're playing in round 5, so I presume it's just I don't know who's right now. Whoever they're playing will be qualified at that stage. And I think that'll help them get the win in round 5, which will keep them out of trouble, where realistically Rathnure are playing Oulart in that last match. You know what I mean? So you're not going to get easy off the opposition in that match, that's for sure.
That will certainly be a humdinger. And then we mentioned Oulart, they played Ferns the weekend, and it was the Ferns who came out to victors 218 to 18 points, Paul. You were on commentary duties for that one.
I was, and it was probably a bit maybe like the Shells match that Ed is talking about, where I suppose Oulart Oulart the Malach I suppose never looked like winning that game. Ferns and Heads never looked like losing the game. They played with the win in the first half. They got off to a flying start, could be 1-4 to no score up. They had the Oulart defence at 6s and 7s, so they just didn't know what was going on there. It took them 10-15 minutes to get into the game. But when you have a lead of 1-4 to no score, I think it's about Matthew Gorman. I think
It's the legend Matthew Gorman. Yeah.
Larry will be following soon.
Yeah.
But when you give an opposition like Ferns a 1-4 to no score lead after 8 or 9 minutes, listen, you're just not coming back from that. As much as you tried, Ferns probably took the foot off the gas a little bit. Oulart Ballach came back to within, could have been 4 points just coming up to the 30th minute, but then Ferns, as champions do, they rattled on 3 points in the last 3 or 2 or 3 minutes of the first half, and that's what won them the game. Went in then up to 7 points at half time. Very comfortable position. Listen, they knew that Oulart were going to give it their all in the second half, but Ferns had to keep them at bay for most of the second half. Listen, they just had that bit of class up front that when Oulart got a point at this end, Ferns went back up the field, got a point at that end, and it was nip and tuck all the way through. In fairness to Oulart, brought on Garrett, Rory, a few of the more experienced guys in the end, which kind of kept them close to Ferns and Aiden's, but they were really pushing, and they were leaving lots of gaps at the other end, trying to get the scores. And so it was injury time then when Ferns got another goal and won by 6, which probably unfortunate for Oulart Ballach. That goal might come back and haunt them in the very end, you know what I mean, because it's so tight there. I could imagine they wouldn't, probably at that stage they probably wouldn't have minded the defeat, but that extra goal is a real double sickener for Oulart Ballach.
We have more fans there now, Ed. What are your thoughts on Ferns and Oulart?
Yeah, Paul is right. You know, the start that Ferns got 1-4 to no score. Oulart were finding it hard to get into the game, but to their credit, they never stopped trying. And you know, Garrett Sinnott is back now, and he's going to be a major help because he's a very hard player to mark. And when you have a player like Garrett Sinnott, you can actually hit in the ball to him. So you know, Oulart are missing Sean Murphy. He's a big loss. Apart from being their sweeper, he's actually organising the defence too. So definitely Ferns are definitely contenders. And you know, I saw there Saturday they brought back on lads that they had brought off. So it just shows you they know they're 20 and they're not going to give anyone token runs. They know they're 20. Them 20 know their system. It'll be hard to stop. And Ian Byrne is just magnificent on frees this year so far anyway.
As he has been for most of the last probably 15 years now, 14 or 15 years. And the final game we're going to discuss in Group B was the Rapparees and Crossabeg Ballymurnet. It was the Rapparees who came out on top 2-13 to 16 points.
Yeah, I look back on this match and you know the Raps didn't score for the last 15 minutes after Dara Pepper got sent off. But the Raps never looked like losing this match, but a magnificent display by Paddy Foley and Mark Byrne kept Crossabeg Ballymurnet in the game, and you know Paddy got 3 magnificent points. He's much better back in the backs, you know, he gives them a great platform, and Conor Devricks as well, you know, so the Raps, they're definitely contenders also. So you know, I think Ballymurnet done quite well to get within 3 points of that game, and they've serious work rate.
Would it be fair to say that maybe the Rapparees weren't as impressive as they were last week?
Yeah, but they weren't allowed to be as impressive either, you know. One thing Crossabeg do have is they have a very strong half back line, you know. Devricks, Foley, Bill Evison, they're very good players at club level, you know.
And Paul, your thoughts on these two sides?
Yeah, I suppose I'll start with Crossabeg Ballymurnet, our neighbours, and I just think they kind of have, they brought Paddy back, and I think they have their bit within their teeth to stay up this year big time. I've been impressed with them the first day and impressed again yesterday. They got the point against Oulart Ballach, even though they kind of got off to a slow enough start, but they fought really hard to get that last goal, a few points to get level and probably go ahead, but they got to draw that one. Yesterday they done really well to stay on the Raps' coattails, I thought. I know when Dara got sent off, listen, I think the Rapparees kind of went into a bit defensive mode and said, listen, we're going to make sure that Crossabeg Ballymurnet don't beat us here. We're not going to score too much more, but we're going to give them too much to do. But I was impressed enough for Crossabeg Ballymurnet, and I just think that they'll be safe. I really do. I think they're going to end up in the 4th spot. I'm kind of impressed enough for them this year.
Yeah, Liam Ryan had a great game for the Raps. He held Oisin Foley, you know, who was brilliant against Oulart. So I thought Liam was outstanding. And
I suppose come back to Ed's point with the Rapparees, listen, they're definitely contenders again. I'm sure they're sick to their stomach of the semi-final result last year and how it kind of transpired, and they're probably not got over that one yet, so they feel that they left one behind them last year. They really do, and they'll be doing their utmost to make sure everyone knows that in their eyes they're the number 1 team of Wexford. And listen, they do have the players to prove that, but listen, there's nothing easy. They'll get to a semi-final stage. I think they will get as far as semi-final, but at that stage I'd hate to say that it's 4 teams and any of the 4 of them will win at that stage. I couldn't call any of the top 4 really.
Yeah, anything can happen in the semi-final, Paul, but it comes down to injuries and luck, and everything comes into play then, you know. And 1 to 15, the Raps are the best team in the county, I think. But if they got 2 injuries, they mightn't be the best team in the county. That's where the Martins and Shells, with their squads, are better equipped for this championship.
So a quick look at the standings in Group B then. At the top of it at the moment are the Rapparees on 4 points with a score difference of +10. In second place are Ferns and Oulart, also on 4 points but a score difference of +8. The Shelmaliers are in third spot on 2 points with a score difference of +8. Crossabeg are in fourth on a point with a score difference of -3. Oulart are in fifth on a point with a score difference of -6. And Rathnure are currently at the foot of the table with no points on a score difference of -17. So they're the standings in Group B of the Pettit Senior Hurling Championship. So the first of the talking points this weekend was a line ball that was given against Rathnure when they ended up putting the ball in the net. Ed, myself and yourself were on commentary for this one, and it very much looked at the time as though Stephen Martin did very well to keep the ball in play.
Yeah, personally myself, Peter, from watching it live, I didn't think the ball was over the line, but yourself, you've done linesman and all, you're going to listen to the crowd shouting, calling for a line ball, and your natural instinct is to put up a flag. But it was a brilliant goal after that, and it wouldn't have had an effect on the result, but it might have an effect on score difference going forward.
And you've had a chance to look back on it, Paul. What did you make of it? I suppose the video, it's hard to see exactly where Stephen Martin's hand is, but it looks like he did a good job.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say for sure whether he's over the line, but you could imagine that the linesman, listen, he probably got that one wrong, but listen, it's hard to get every single decision right, and he was just on the verge of the line. As you said, it didn't really affect, it would have affected the result in the end, but it's probably one that I could imagine there's probably one line ball's got wrong every day. It's just the fact that one resulted in a goal is what we're looking at, which is fair enough. Probably Rathnure would feel hard enough done by, but I could imagine he got rid of the ball fairly quickly too from the ground area, so I don't know if that was a legal hand pass either. So if he might have been over the line, but I don't think he hand passed the ball either. Yeah,
so we leave that one to the judge. We can't say one way or the other, but it was certainly a very well worked goal, and I think it was Jack Redmond who ended up finishing it, but it wouldn't have made any major difference to the result, but maybe on a tighter day. But if it comes down to score difference with a point or two, maybe Rathnure look back on that one. But that's the first of our talking points. This weekend, lads, we had 6 matches in the championship, in the senior championship, and we had 4 red cards. Now we're going to look at the first of them. Colm Heffernan received 2 yellow cards against Gorey. The first one was for an altercation with Jack Cullen, Paul.
Yeah, the two of them got into a bit of a tussle together off the ball, and it's kind of the usual crack where one says, I'm going to give a little dig, and I think Jack came back with a slightly heavier one. Realistically, I think Jack is very lucky not probably to get a red for that one, and the referee went over, probably spoke to the lines, I'm not sure, but gave him 2 yellows each for that. And listen, I could imagine Colm, listen, 2 of them deserved, there were definitely yellows each, but I think Jack is very lucky that he didn't get a straight red for that particular incident. But then that followed on that when Colm then went in for a later tackle, which was probably, listen, it was a high tackle, he's maybe caught off balance, and the defender, I think, was it Gary Malloy, was it coming out?
Owen Malloy.
Owen Malloy came out, probably slightly slipped or turned quickly, and but listen, it was a head high shot and he caught him flush in the face, and that was definitely another deserved yellow. So I don't think Colm can feel anyway hard done by about getting 2 yellows. I suppose if you're from a Fried Harris point of view, you're probably a bit upset that Jack didn't get a red as well in the initial instant. That'd be my take on it.
And your thoughts, Ed? Just with the second yellow, it looks as though Owen Malloy takes a good sidestep, and that might have just put Colm Heffernan at a bit of a disadvantage there in that one.
Yeah, it was a big hit, and Colm Heffernan is a physical player, but there was some thump off that, so I think the sound would have got him a yellow card if nothing else, Peter.
It was only a split second away from actually getting them on the shoulder though as well. Sometimes you can be a little bit unlucky if a player is a bit agile, jinks away from the tackle.
You've got to appreciate that players now are stronger than they ever were before. And timing is a big thing with, years ago we'd eye one another up with a shoulder, but now it's not like that, and players can be very unlucky with shoulder charges and whatnot,
I suppose if it's the duty of care as well. If he was going in there knowing that, it's a bit like Richie Hogan one, if I miss this, I'm going to hurt him. I mean, so realistically, he just got caught. He didn't hit him squarely. He did catch him in the face. As much as it was maybe a sidestep or it was a missed time tackle, going into that, he knew that if he didn't get this right, he should have known he's going to get another yellow.
One of the other red cards was in the St. Martin's Lynn game. It went to Jake Furman.
Yeah, you can just see by the footage that the 2 of them got sort of tangled up, and the 2 of them ended up on the ground, and Jake just struck, and it wasn't a very heavy hit or anything like that, but he was caught, and straight to his credit, straight away he knew he was caught and he went straight over to the referee, and he's after getting a straight red card, so he's going to miss a match. And it's a pity for Jake because he had been playing really well. I thought he was back on form, so I don't think he can have any complaints really.
There wasn't anything majorly malicious, Paul, but it was enough definitely for Eamon Furlong to have shown the red card justifiably.
Yeah, you can see the motion. I think Ronan maybe was his umpire in the time as well, that you could just see the motion of probably the arm coming back and going forward, and listen, that was enough to get him sent off. And I think what Ed said, I don't know how much strength was behind it, but I don't think at that stage the officials care how hard he get hit. Basically, the strike came in, struck the face, and realistically they had no option but to give him a red card at that stage. But it's just a bit of a moment of madness from Jake, is right. I'm sure he'll learn from it, and we'll see him at the business end of the championship.
And the final sending off we're going to look at is the 2 yellow cards for Damien Reck. The first yellow card, Ed, I don't think he can have many complaints really.
No, absolutely not, Peter. Aaron Duggan, a fine goal, he was probably a misplaced pass and he put him under pressure, and I don't think Damien would have any complaints with the first yellow card. The second yellow card I thought was a magnificent catch. I suppose if you look at slow motion there is a bit of jostling, but you want your centre back doing that, going up and winning the ball. I thought it was a very, very good catch, and my first instinct was that it was actually a free out, but that's the way it went. I didn't think that was a yellow card myself.
Would you agree with that, Paul, or what do you think?
Yeah, listen, I was doing the bit of commentary on that one as well, and it looked to me like it was going to be a free for Damien when he caught that ball. Diarmuid O'Keefe he was kind of holding both of Damien's hands down, one left and one right, and didn't really give much option. As far as Damien, I thought was just trying to get away. I mean, get away from being held basically, and I didn't see any malice intent to grab a face guard or pull off a face guard. I don't actually know what the second yellow was for at all, but I can only assume that it was something to do with his helmet or his face. I just don't understand. But Oil, Gakel and Brian, they came back to get a draw at the end of it, but I can guarantee if they'd lost that match by a point we'd be hearing a lot more about it. But
the only thing you could say is maybe did the referee think that Damien Reck had caught Diarmuid O'Keefe's head under his arm deliberately, maybe.
Yeah,
well, he wouldn't have caught the ball if he did that. He's brilliant, but he's not that good, for God's sake.
Like I think if you win the ball and they're trying to get out, I think the last thing in your mind is I'm going to grab onto the fella beside me and not get out. Do you know what I mean? He's trying to get away. Diarmuid is making as hard as he can for him to get away. Listen, of course we can't call every situation that the referee sees and the angle that he sees in that, but listen, I could imagine whatever about us, a lot of people from Mike Laker and Brian would love to know exactly what his reason was behind getting the yellow card, and maybe it'll come out. Listen, I know we won't get to see it, but as some said, some fella, it'd be nice. I know the referees never have to kind of say what it is, but if he was to say, listen, he got the second yellow for this and I can show it, listen, I just think it'd be great kind of a PR thing down the line that, well, yeah, grand, you sorted that issue out straight away, and that's what the second yellow was for, and we're all wrong and you're right, and fair kudos if that ever happened. If it does happen, I doubt very much, but I'm just thinking that's, listen, in rugby everyone knows exactly what every decision is for, to the T. I mean, what the penalty is for, what the free is for, the audience probably knows before the players know. And listen, I'm sure the referees, if they were given maybe license to say, well, I gave the free for this reason, whether it's right or wrong, that's why I gave it. And that's all us paying and non-paying customers want to know, is why the decisions happen that maybe have huge bearings on games.
So the consensus here on the panel is that maybe the Damien Reck second yellow card was in the unlucky category, but you've seen the footage, you can make up your own mind. And the fourth sending off was in the referees game. Dara Pepper was sent off, but there's no footage of that, so we're not going to be able to have any discussion or clips on that one. So that completes our talking points for this week. So looking ahead then to round 3 and the Group A fixtures, we'll start off with St Anne's and Glyn. Ed, what way do you think it will go and why?
Yeah, I just think the Anns will win this. I think they are a better team than Glyn. But Glyn have a very good record against the Anns. It's always close. I remember one game being a draw, and I remember the year the Anns won the championship in 2000. That was a great game in Ross, wasn't it?
It was. It was a remember, I think they could have beat us in both quarterfinals. They won the double actually.
In the last minute, I think.
And it was a silly scoreline, like something like 4-3 to 13 points to beat, something like that. Like we thought we deserved to beat her, but anyway, the games are always very, very close. There's no team ever gets away in that match. They just don't.
But just hearing on the grapevine that Conor O'Mahony is on the verge of a comeback from injury.
You didn't hear that from me, now?
Yeah, no, I have my sources, Paul. But he'll be a major help to Glyn Barntown. And you know, Glyn will want to right the wrongs from yesterday, so I could see this being very, very close again.
But you're going to go with St Anne's?
I'll go with St Anne's.
Paul?
Listen, I suppose if you just base it on what's happened so far, it's very hard to see anything else other than a St Anne's win. They have beaten St Martin's, who of course did an awful job on us last week. They drew yesterday, so they have their 3 points. They need. We would have rather actually them winning that match, because I think at 4 they think that they're safe, and the quarter final is nearly assured. For now they need to get 2 more points. We're next up on the list. The 5-day turnaround is affecting both teams, so that's going to be very tough as well, with another 21 championship thrown in the middle as well, which is on Wednesday night. And for the fact that we have 9 under 21s that finished the match against St Martin's, and you could be looking at 6 of them playing Wednesday night, like it's going to be an awful tough ask for us, I think, to go and try to get one over on the St Anne's team into goal as well. Realistically, I'd be hoping that we put up a good showing, but I think I just think it's just be one step too far, I think, for Glyn Barntown at the moment to beat the Anne's on Friday night.
He's playing the poor mouth there, Peter. You know, it looks like we're going to see the first walkover ever in the senior hurling championship. Don't mind him.
Well, I'm going to make it a full house for St Anne's. The next game, Paul, you can give your thoughts first. The Harriers and Aldgate.
Yeah, an interesting one, because I did think Aldgate would get their first win yesterday, and they got a draw. While the Harriers, it's very much, listen, Lee Chin is still the main man, right? He's just so hard to tie down, and I know he looked in distress and very tired and a shook man after that match against Nevena. So if he's at 100%, I don't know. For Five Harriers, I'm going to say they're hoping they are. Aldgate probably, listen, the draw that they got seems like a win to them, right? In their heads, because to come back from 2 points in injury time against St Anne's, get a draw is great momentum for them, and purely in the fact that I think that they're kind of on a crest of a wave going upwards, and I think Five Harriers, no matter what way you look at it, they'd have to be a little bit depressed as well, because I'm sure they thought they'd have at least one win by now after the first 2 matches. That I think if Aldgate can get the grips with Lee Chin, who, listen, he can't keep winning matches from every day, and I think Aldgate and Brian do have the men to do that. But I think just overall, I think that they have enough firepower up the range to get a win, especially with Podge, because he's going to bang in another goal, I'd say. So I'd be thinking that for as much as Five Harriers are going to be in the game again, I just think Aldgate and Brian have maybe a slightly better 1-15. And listen, Lee Chin, he just can't keep on winning games for Five Harriers. It's very hard to do it week in, week out. And for that reason alone, I just think Aldgate and Brian get over that one.
Ed?
Yeah, as Paul said, it's going to be a very interesting game. And you know, when you think, I think Aldgate 6-backs are very good, Paul, and I think the Harriers have good forwards, so it's going to be a great duel. Podge Dorn and Richie Keogh is going to be a great duel as well. But you know, Paul is saying that Lee Chin can't keep winning matches. Well, he's doing a good job of it for the last 12 or 13 years, you know. I think the Lee Chin factor could swing it for the Harriers, but he definitely looked injured after the match last Sunday, but you can be sure that Chin will be lining out next weekend, and if he hits form, I think the Harriers could shade this one.
And I'm going to go for this week's draw. I think this will be this week's draw, Five Harriers and Aldgate. There's bound to be a draw in the 6 of them, and I think it might be this one. And the final game then in Group A is St Martin's and Nevena, Ed.
Yeah, this is the heavyweight clash, you know, and they played a great game in the league final, and Joe O'Connor went off injured and swung the tie in Gory's favour. I think this one will go to the wire. Remember 2 years ago we had a penalty shootout and ended up in Wexford Park. I think these two teams are very close. They know one another really, really well. The matchups will be key here, but I don't know, I think the Martins, after their win last night, I think they're very dangerous inside forward line, and I think they might shade it by a point or 2.
Paul?
I think I'll jump on the defence a bit like you, Peter, this one, and I just think that when this is going down the stretch, it's going to be level with 2 or 3 minutes to go. Two teams, as I said, they know each other so well. They're so well matched in all areas of the field. Listen, they have a sprinkling of inter-county players all over the place. Both teams do. Nevena have the 4 points. St Martin's only have the 2. I suppose you look at it that way, St Martin's, they still can't afford to lose another match. I know they do not want to be 1 win from 3 matches. Nevena know one more point is going to guarantee them top 4. And I think if it's coming down the stretch, both teams will gladly take a draw. I think that's where it's going to end up. I really do. I think it's going to be that tight, and it will be a draw at the end.
And I'm going to be different again. Not for the sake of being different. I genuinely think Nevena will win this one. Group B then, we have Ferns and the Rapparees Ed on Friday night.
Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than this, and with the way last year's semi-final ended up, there's going to be a bit of bite to this. Will Paul Morris play? He played against Oulart. If he plays, he's a major help to Ferns, St. Aidan's. But I just think the Raps will win this one. I think, they're a very good team. They'll work the ball out of the fence so well. They're a great team building with the ball, and Liam Ryan is back to his best the last day. I think the Raps will win it, but it'll be, again, all the games this weekend will be close, but I think this one could be a point or two as well.
Paul?
I'll take Ed on this one, and I just think I saw enough in Ferns last weekend, or yesterday, whatever the day before, to see that they have enough to get over Rapparees. And I think it's a case that neither team maybe might show their full hand here at the moment. I think both teams will be fairly sure they're going to get to a semi-final or quarter-final at least. And they're both probably eyeing up the opposition. Now I know Rapparees are kind of going, God, they took the medals on us last year in their minds, but they probably see a bigger fish to fry in the knockout stages maybe in 2 weeks to go, where I think Ferns' need is more than the Rapparees. I think they have to kind of show that, listen, we're here on merit, we beat us last year, we're going to do it again this year. And for that reason alone, I just think that Ferns' need to win, and of course listen, their quality all over the field, is going to be enough maybe to scrape a 1 or 2 point win in the end. And I suppose it's just the fact that you said Rapparees didn't score for 15 minutes last weekend when they were a man down, and something like that. I'd be a little bit wary this time of the year. And listen, the Rapparees are known to maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit when they've had a few early good results, and I just think Ferns are going to go 3 from 3.
Yeah, you must remember, Peter, Ferns beat Rapparees twice last year. Remember, they came from about 10 points down in glory.
Yeah.
So, Ferns definitely have the players to match up to the Rapparees.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Ferns on the basis that we're in round 3 now with 5 games in a row. I think they might have a few more options in terms of fresh legs, in terms of quality fresh legs to come in off the bench if necessary. So I'm just going to tip Ferns, but I think it'll be a very tight game. Shelmaliers and Oulart, Paul?
Shelmaliers and Oulart, yeah. Listen, Oulart are still striving for that first win. Shelmaliers, same thing again, they lost the first match. They won't be happy if they only win 1 from 3. Listen, they have quality all over the field. Oulart without Sean Murphy, probably their backup is not, it's probably not as young as what they're hoping it would be. And the Shells are very physically strong, very fast, very fish. Like, if it's one team that you don't want to be kind of chasing down with 10-15 minutes to go, it's the Shells. They look to be back on form to where they were when they came to the county final in that second half against Rathnewer, and even though that was against the wind. So we get an opinion now behind us.
Mossy man boy is the man.
Is he, yeah?
Mossy man boy.
Say it.
One.
It's normally 7 or 8 year olds that come up and disrupt interviews, but sure. You can keep going, Paul.
Anyway, yeah, we keep on going. It's alright. We've made another superstar gone viral. But yeah, listen. We're looking at it. Basically, we're back to the Shelmaliers. I just think they have enough hurlers all over the field. As much as Oulart and Balloch did try hard in that second half yesterday, Shelmaliers are just too strong from 1 to 15. And I'd hate to say it, I think Oulart and Balloch maybe are looking at it a game further down the line as the one that's going to get them out of trouble.
Yeah, I actually was very impressed with Shelmaliers against Ferns. They had a player sent off, and I thought they tried very hard in that. Arnie Murphy made a big difference that day. But I think they've turned the corner now, and they were very impressive in the second half against Rathnewer. Oulart without Sean Murphy. A player that's playing really well for Oulart is Peter Sutton. He's getting on the scoreboard quite regularly, and Conor O'Leary, Birdie is playing really well. Owen Moore is playing really well. So Oulart will put it up to the Shells, but I think the quality of the Shells will win the day.
And then the final game is Crossabeg and Rathnewer, Ed.
Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than this. This could decide who finishes 4th and who finishes 6th. Rathnewer forwards, they haven't caught fire yet. You go through them: Sean, Kieran O'Connor, Jack Redmond, and all. So there's plenty of room for improvement there. Ballymurn with Paddy Foley back in his best position. He's a real conductor of the orchestra, but if I'm predicting a winner in this, I'm just going to hesitate to think that Rathnure will win the game.
Paul?
So I think I said at the start of the interview, I think across the big will be the ones to end up fourth, and I can't kind of change my mind now. I just think, I suppose agreeing with Ed here, that their half-back line is a very dominant half-back line. You know what I mean? It really is, and as good as the Rathnure inside forward line is, they won't get the ball that they want to get the scores that they need to win this match. Where I think at the other end, across the big, they're plenty good hurlers, but they're physically strong as well, right? And so Nushie and Foley, they kind of have a game winner, who's a proven kind of game winner at this level. And I think the two Foleys will be kind of the big difference here, because it's just, I think they'll be able to get the game by the scruff of the neck, take the scruff of the neck, and just get the eke out win at the end. Now, it won't be pretty. I think this match won't be anyway pretty. I think it's going to be low scoring enough. I think Crossabeg will be happy enough with that. I just think it's their half back line is going to drive them to victory, and I just think Rathnure, they've been close to winning these type of games, but they haven't been winning, where Crossabeg have won a few of these type of games, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think Crossabeg Balmurray will win that one.
I'm going to split the difference and go for Rathnure, but I've gone for Rathnure an awful lot over the last few seasons, and they haven't managed to win very often, so yeah, I think it'll be tight, but I'm just going to maybe think that this weekend might be Rathnure's day. I forgot to mention Ferns and Oulart myself. I think the Shells will win that one, and hopefully we'll see 6 great games at the weekend.